In the mountain-fringed village of Tarnwick, where the wind carved old songs into the stones and the people had long stopped listening, there lived a young man named Orion. He played a stringed instrument of no particular origin, just a wooden shell with wire stretched across its belly. He played in the square, at weddings, during harvests. People nodded, tapped feet politely, occasionally applauded, and carried on with their conversations. Orion was not a particularly talented musician, and he knew it. His fingers stumbled, his rhythms wandered. He knew he was no match for the great virtuosos of the valley. Yet sometimes, alone beneath the trees or beside the quiet stream, melodies rose from him that he knew he had never learned. They were more than mere songs. They felt like echoes from a far-off land he'd never been. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the pines, a stranger suddenly collapsed near the well. Dusty boots, a torn cloak, and a pendant clutched in his hand, etched with symbols like roots curling through stone. While others hesitated, Orion rushed to the stranger. The man's eyes fluttered open just long enough to hear Orion humming under his breath. The tune born without thought. A strange peace came over the traveler's face. "You've heard it too," he rasped. "Go to Lysoria." And then he was gone. No one in Tarnwick had heard of Lysoria. Some scoffed, others whispered of children's stories, but Orion couldn't shake the name. At night, it rang in his chest like a bell under water. He tried to forget. He buried his instrument beneath the roots of a tree altogether and told himself to be sensible. But the music didn't stop. It came to him in dreams, in the creak of doors, in the sigh of the hills. Until one dusk, a blind wanderer appeared in the square. Her name was Sorel, and she walked as though following something the rest could not hear. "You buried it," she said without preamble. Orion stiffened. "What?" "The song," she said. "You think it's yours, but you're only remembering." She told him of the deep voice, a thread beneath sound, older than speech, which only the soul could hear. Words often lie, but this voice could not. And so, Orion dug up his instrument and followed her direction. Eastward, toward the forgotten vale of Lysoria, said to be a place where silence speaks louder than thunder. The road was long and the world wider than he had known. He played for strangers, some of whom laughed, some wept without knowing why. A mute girl pressed her ear to his instrument and smiled for the first time in years. A bard challenged him and left humbled. A voice thief tried to steal the song from his lips, but found it impossible to trap what was never his. Finally, Orion reached Lysoria. The valley was blanketed in fog. No birds sang. Even his footsteps were swallowed. He stood in a stone amphitheater carved by time, facing no one, surrounded by nothing. And yet, he played. Nothing echoed back. No feedback. No warmth of an audience. No approval. And the voices returned, inside him this time. "You're not a real musician. You got lucky. You're a flicker, not a flame." He nearly stopped, but something in the silence beckoned. Not for skill, but for honesty. So he played the strange, imperfect melody that had followed him since boyhood. He poured into it all his doubt, his longing, the aching need to speak what words could not reach. And from the stillness came a tone, pure, whole, not from his instrument, but from the valley itself. He wept, not because he understood, but because he felt known. When he returned to Tarnwick, nothing had changed, but everything had. He played in the square once more. The villagers gathered as before, ready to nod politely. But this time, no one spoke. Children stopped squirming. Elders leaned forward. When he finished, there was no applause, only tears He became a wanderer like Sorel. He was never famous, never rich. But wherever he went, he played songs that said what needed saying, without words. And the soul, at last, remembered how to listen.